Hello again, YouTube. Well, here's a bike you haven't seen on the channel in a while, and there's a reason for that. Let me tell you all about it. Hello again, YouTube. Well, a couple of videos ago, I made this rash statement. I am finally going to be doing what I set out to do with this channel, which is hopefully tracking a proper weight loss journey. So today, let me talk to you about how that's going. And it's going particularly well. If you look back at my channel, if you look at my videos, you will spot a common theme. I did this morning, and I'd love £1 for every title of fresh start, starting again, you know, back with the plan. I've got a history of trying this and failing at this. I think I've figured it out, okay? If you are setting out to get some timber off and to get yourself back to fitness, the first thing you've got to ensure is that your head is in the game. Because in all of those other starts and false starts, my head just wasn't in the game. I knew I needed to do something, I just wasn't committed to it. Or I wasn't committed to it in the way that I needed to be committed to it to make it succeed. There you go. Simple as that. So where am I today? Well, let me level with you and wind the clock back to when I started this. I set out on this leg of getting myself back to fitness 11 weeks ago. And at that point, I'm not proud to say, but I was 141.5 kilos. Ouch. And I'd said to myself that the goal for this phase, if you like, was to lose 40 kilos. This morning, I weighed in at 117.5 kilos. Do the math. I make that 24 kilos. So that, to me, is kind of just past midpoint in the total journey I'd set myself for this point. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to get down to 100 kilos and go straight to the pub and the chip shop. I think for me, the 100 kilos is the starting point of getting back to proper fitness, of getting myself back into proper triathlon. So you could think of this first 40 kilo phase as getting myself back to where I need to be to achieve my longer term goals, if that makes sense. However, I'd set myself a mid-term goal, and I'd said to myself that the mid-term goal was, well, obviously 20 kilos, get 20 kilos off. I wanted to be sub 120 kilos, and there was a really good and strong driver for that. Over my shoulder, he says, pointing just there, is my Trek Domane 4.5. Now this is a bike that you've seen on this channel before. It's the bike that I did a nut and bolt restoration on a few years back. And I literally did the restoration, stuck the bike on the wall and started gaining weight. And really haven't ridden it because I got up to about probably between 125, 130 kilos at that point, and said to myself, a little bit heavy for that frame, just need to get some timber off before you start riding it again. It's a 2012, so it's quite an old carbon frame, by carbon frame standards, and it's a bike that I'm emotionally invested in. The bike I did my first multi-sport on, the bike that I rode coast to coast in a day on, the bike that I did my last official Ironman race on. So it's a bike that means a lot to me. I didn't want to damage it. And, you know, obviously as my weight it peaked up above 130, and I sort of like hovered around the 100, 133 for a good long period. And I was saying to myself, all the time I was saying to myself, just need to get this 10 kilos off or whatever, get back on that bike. Wasn't happening. Obviously it wasn't happening because somehow I ended up back at 141. But here we are now, sub 120. So this afternoon, it's coming down off the wall. I'm taking it in the garden and I'm getting it ready for my Sunday ride tomorrow. And I cannot wait to be riding it again. Even though it's literally hung on the wall since I did the restoration. I think I wrote it 2 or 3 times after that. It's, for Christ's sakes, it's got cobwebs on the front mech, so it needs a little bit of love. And there's some other general maintenance I want to do to it. There's no air in the tyres. Want to check the tyres over, make sure they haven't rotted out. Need to put a battery in the battery meter, because I always take the battery out of need to put a battery in the power meter, because I always take the battery out of a power meter when I store a bike, blah, 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 blah. So this afternoon there'll be some lovely B-roll of me getting that ready for tomorrow. But I did think I might take this opportunity to just talk to you about how I'm approaching weight loss this time around, what I'm doing, and I don't know, that might be helpful to some of you. So I've come into the pain cave to talk about this bit, which seems appropriate because that 25 kilos I've lost, I guessed most of it are still in here somewhere. So my approach to weight loss and fitness and all that good stuff, I try to keep it simple. The one thing I've noticed, being a bit of a YouTuber and spending probably an unhealthy amount of time looking at YouTube videos in the evening, is if you look at the subject of weight loss, people really, really overcomplicate it. There are a multitude of diets: carnivore, keto, there's fasting, various types of fasting. There are a multitude of subjects and topics. I think it comes down to the basics. Just eat good, healthy, proper food, eat appropriately, burn what you're eating, and track what you're eating and burning. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what I do. Which doesn't make for a very long video, does it? Which I guess is why people try to overcomplicate it. So let me take those in order. Eat the right things. Well, there's that old saying, isn't there? If you can't pick it, pull it, or catch it, don't eat it. Look for an interview with a bit of a triathlon legend, a guy called, I think it's Lou Hollander. He's in his 90s and he's doing Ironman. He took up triathlon, I think, in his 50s. And his approach to nutrition is, if I don't know what the thing is I'm eating, I won't eat it. So to give you an example, sausages and burgers would be right out because they're processed food. And therein, I think, is one of the problems for most of us in modern society, the amount of processed food. And I think it's also the amount of processed and refined sugars that end up in our food as well. So if you stick to the basics, if you stick to, good fresh fruit and veg, stick to decent fish and meat, if you eat fish and meat, and, a cornerstone of my diet, eggs. I think if you stick to those simple food groups, you're going to do right by yourself. But more importantly, you're going to be giving your body stuff that your body can process, and that's going to put you ahead of the game to begin with. Speaking personally and candidly, I think one of the big changes for me that's made the biggest difference is giving up alcohol. I'm still treating myself to the occasional Guinness Zero in the pain cave. I've actually got a fridge full of the stuff. Well, there's 4 cans in there at the moment, but so I treat myself to that. But, just getting rid of the alcohol, I think, has been a real big factor for me. Because all the time you're consuming alcohol, your liver's processing that before it can get to the important things like metabolizing the food you've put into your body and burning fat. So, it goes without saying. But equally, there's a lot less calories in each of those cans. There's a lot less sugar. So I think that's been a big, big factor for me, if I'm completely honest about this. And do you know what? If you'd have said to me 10 to 12 weeks ago when I set out on this journey that, in under 3 months, you'll have given up alcohol completely and you'll be actually quite anti-alcohol, I'd have said, no, I'll probably still end up having the occasional drink, but I've got absolutely no desire to, because I just feel so damn good now not drinking. So yes, basically food. Eat right, eat clean, and know what you're eating. So let's go on to tracking, because I think that's a really important part of this. Now, for years, I've been a fan of MyFitnessPal. And I've kind of ramped that up recently. I've gone premium on MyFitnessPal, and that was basically all because I got a benefit through our employees' benefit schemes at work. They do one called Gym Pass, and it's one I've always kind of overlooked because the premise is you pay a few quid a month and then you get access to local gyms for a fraction of their usual cost, blah, 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 blah. And simple fact of the matter was there weren't any gyms on there that I fancied. But I was kind of missing the point. They do a bum basic, I think I pay about 8 quid a month subscription, which does apparently give me access to a couple of local gyms. Again, I wouldn't want to go to them, and I think one of them's actually closed, looking at the app. But the one thing that I was always overlooking, it gives you access to a ton of premium apps. So you get the premium MyFitnessPal. I've got the premium Strava. We'll talk about that in another video. You get premium Headspace. You get just a ton of apps on there. So for 8 quid a month, you know, even if you just took a subscription to Strava and a subscription to MyFitnessPal, you've already more than covered your monthly outlay to the Gym Pass, which to me feels like a winner. Now, with MyFitnessPal, if you've not come across it before, really go looking for it. There is a free version that doesn't come with all the bells and whistles, and you will get a bit more advertising on that. But the important thing about it is it encourages you to understand your caloric intake on a daily basis. The premium version goes even further than that because it'll help you understand your macro intake on a daily basis. So it'll set you goals for your protein, fat and carbohydrate intake on a daily basis and tell you how you're measuring up. Now the app runs really simply. I'm running it on an iPhone and you can log your food in various ways. You can basically just tell it longhand what you're eating. And it'll find a list of matches and you just pick the food that you're eating. You can scan a barcode, or on the premium version, you can even go in and scan a photo of your meal. If it's not listed anywhere else and you're struggling to describe it, just scan a photo of the meal and the app will, through a bit of AI, kind of figure out what it is you're eating. And it'll give you a caloric breakdown for it. It'll give you probably a breakdown on most of the foods I've seen on there, or a lot of the foods I've seen on there. It'll give you a breakdown of the macros. It gets a really good view of what you're eating. It gives you a really good view of what you're eating. But the important thing is, if you get into a rhythm with it and you become disciplined with it and you start tracking everything, it's surprising how many calories you can consume in a day. Now, if you're not tracking it, it's easy to overlook stuff. It's easy to overlook the sugar that you put in your coffee and all the milk in that latte and stuff like that. But if you're using an app like this and you're using it honestly and tracking everything, it really is an eye-opener. And not only does it sort of become a bit of an eye-opener in terms of the calories you're consuming, but I find it keeps you more honest in how you're consuming calories throughout the day. But it doesn't just track what you've taken in, it tracks what you've expended as well. So in my case, I've linked it up to Garmin Connect. It talks to Garmin every morning when I upload my early morning walk, my early morning ride, weight set or whatever it is. And it will then just deduct those calories from my overall total. So you can set a target and say, you know, I want to lose a kilo a week or something like that. And it will figure out how many calories you should be taking in on a daily basis. And then you can measure yourself day by day just to make sure that you're not consuming too many calories. Like I say, I've used it for years. I'm using the premium version at the moment, but even if you don't want to shell out for the premium version, the basic version, if you can put up with some advertising and the loss of a few bells and whistles, it's really worth doing and it will keep you honest. Now, while we're talking of keeping honest, how often do I weigh myself? I weigh myself every day. My wife, who's a long-term subscriber to various weight loss societies, shall we call them, you know, Weight Watchers, Slimming World, Fat Fighters, call it what you will. She swears blind that you should only weigh yourself once a week. And I believe that that once a week mentality comes from being members of those societies or clubs or organisations, companies. Because you think about it, you go along once a week, you pay them £8. And what are you getting for that? Well, one of the perceived benefits is, we'll weigh you on a super accurate set of scales. Whoop-de-doo. And then, from what she tells me, you sit there for half an hour or an hour just listening to why people have put a pound on each week. Now, you see, to me, weight loss is a journey. And it's like any other journey. You wouldn't set out for a destination you'd not been to before or in a while without checking where it was on a map or setting up a GPS or something like that, knowing where you're going and checking your route often. Okay, so weight loss is the same. Check your progress daily. There's nothing wrong with that. It will be demotivating because my weight will fluctuate by up to a kilo either way, day on day. And that can be, whether you took a good dump in the morning or what you ate the day before. But the important thing is, if you weigh yourself on a daily basis, you will see a trend line. And for me, it's actually a healthier approach than that once a week weigh-in. You think about those people that go along once a week and they think they've bust a gut all week to try and lose a couple of pounds, and then they get on the scales and, Marjorie Dawes says to them, "Oh, you've put on a pound, it's not easy." You see, if you're measuring your weight on a daily basis, you'll be more on top of where you're putting weight on, when you're putting weight on, and you can do something about it in real time. If you weigh yourself once a week, you get a once a weekly surprise or shock. So one bit of tracking I did want to mention. I use the Watt bike here, and that tracks power. I've got a power meter on all of my road bikes, and I actually think that in terms of weight loss, a power meter is a really valuable addition to your bike. And the reason for that is it's such an accurate way to track your calorie burn on the bike. Now, if you rely on a Garmin and heart rate, or let's wind this back. I think back to when I first started cycling and lost a ton of weight years ago. What was that? Probably 12, 13 years ago. I think the closest thing that we had to tracking when I started out was Endomondo. And it seemed really cool. Your phone would just track you on GPS and go, yeah, he's done a bike. I bet that's about this many calories. He's done a run. I bet you that's this many calories. It would, of course, massively overestimate your calories. It made you feel really good because you'd do, like an hour's bike and it'd say you burnt 4,000 calories or something like that. And way back then, I didn't know any better. You thought you had. But then you get a little bit more accurate. I started tracking heart rate. And of course, that's a better measure of the work that you're doing. So again, tracking your heart rate, you think, oh, right, okay, so I'm burning fewer calories. Well, I tell you what, you start tracking your bike rides with power and you will suddenly see actually how many calories you're burning, or really close to how many calories you're burning. And the reason for that is it knows how many watts, kilojoules you've expended, and there's a really close relationship between those and calories. So you can get a much more accurate calorie burn if you can get a power meter on a bike. Now, again, I do appreciate that is probably a couple of £100 investment. You can probably get them a little bit cheaper if you shop around secondhand on eBay. Or again, if you use some of the fitness equipment at a gym, you'll probably find that they have. I know that the gym I used to go to has a Watt bike. In fact, I think they've got one of the Stages bikes there as well. So they'll track power. So if you can, track your cycling with power, because it will give you a really good guide to the calories you're burning. So let's talk about burning what you're eating. Now, my daily routine starts at 4:30 in the morning when the alarm goes off. I will, before I go out of the house, just have something very simple. Do you know what? Just a glass of water. I actually started doing a glass of water with freshly squeezed lemon in it. I don't know where I got that trick from. It was probably from one of these wacko YouTube videos. And it probably doesn't do you a lot of good beyond just a big hit of vitamin C, which is never a bad thing. But I quite like it because I find it sort of like picks me up and wakes me up in the morning. Quick espresso, and then I'm out of the house with the dogs. We'll do between 3 and 5 miles, depending on how much time I've got available to me along the trails. They love it. It's a really nice way to start the day, rain or shine. Wouldn't be without it, to be honest with you. And then I'm back in here. Now, the routine I've set myself on a daily basis will centre mainly around the watt bike. I have become a real Zwifter. So over the last 3 months, I think I can count on one hand the number of days where I haven't hit Zwift at some point. So yeah, I'm doing long Zwift sessions. Now those will vary because I do like to mix it up. So the mix that I've got is I will do bike, I will do run, mainly on the treadmill at the moment, and I will do weights. I think you should be including resistance in any training plan that you've got that's focused on losing weight. So it will break down like this. Generally after my morning walk, I've got between an hour and an hour and a half free before I need to start work. So I will break that down to, I could do just an hour or slightly over an hour on the watt bike. Might do one of the longer Zwift courses. I might do half an hour on the watt bike, half an hour run, or I might do 40 minutes on the watt bike, and I've got a 20-minute free weight set that I've set up for myself. So I'm kind of mixing it up. I'll try to get, like I say, bike most days, couple of runs a week on top of that, couple of weight sets a week on top of that. And I'm finding that that's a good overall mix for me. Now, obviously, I do appreciate, I'm fortunate in having this pain cave that we built, and not everybody's got that. So I do, try to equate this to somebody that's not in that position. I do still think you could get a nice long walk in the morning. I know that when I have to go into the office, I will sometimes get off the train a stop or two early so that I get a longer walk to the office. So there's some calorie burn there. And then it's a case of mixing your day up. You can get a gym membership quite cheaply. There are a number of gyms around here that you can get for probably under 20 quid a month that got a really good range of cardio, really good range of weights and resistance. Better cardio and better weights and resistance than I've got here, all for your 20 quid a month. So they would be worth thinking about. Even if you didn't want to go down that route, don't forget there are roads out there. So you can still go running. You can still take your bike out. And yeah, that to me, again, I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm trying not to overcomplicate this. Lots of cardio, walk, bike, run, and mix in some resistance. And I think that'll see you right. Now, I'm not going to stand here and give you in detail what I do training-wise, because what I do is working for me. It might not work for you. We are all different. You weigh a different amount to me. You have, different daily schedules. You have a different amount of time available to you each day. So again, I'm just talking very generically here. Give yourself a good hit of cardio and mix in some strength, and I think you'll be seeing yourself right. But here I am, sort of 3 months in and 25 kilos down. I think that says something, doesn't it? Now, my plan is, I think I said this in the introduction, is when I started this journey was 141 kilos. I am this morning just, I think, 116.2 kilos. So do the math on how many kilos I've lost there. So clearly something's working for me. I always said that there was going to be 2 phases to this. It was going to be lose that 40 kilos, get yourself down sub 100. And then when you're sub 100, you kind of change from a strip the timber off plan to a get fit and lose timber plan. So, I'm kind of halfway there, just slightly over halfway there now, and I intend to keep up that progress till I hit my 100 kilo target, and then go to the chip shop and the pub. No, and then get myself, training properly again for triathlon. Anyway, if you've watched any of this, I hope it was helpful or interesting. If you've made it this far into this video, as always, you have my hugest respect and admiration. If you are not a subscriber here, I'd really appreciate it. If you did find this helpful, if you do find the things that I do here interesting, I'd appreciate you just subscribing to this channel. And if you're feeling generous, give it a like. Anyway, see you in the next one, YouTube. Thanks for watching.